Waiting for Google to catch up. There we go. And we're live. Welcome everybody to BigGunner81 Live. I don't choke over my words. Presented by Applied Arsenal Finishes and Gunworks, Eggleston Munitions, the range at 355, and our friends over at Splinter Precision. Check them out at splinterprecision.com. So with us tonight, we've got Ron. I hope I don't mess with your last name. It's Albanese.
Albanese, yep.
Albanese from Wisconsin Sugar Company, which we'll talk to here in just a moment. And we also got, and welcome again. We also got TJ, Let's Sing Ginger, over on Instagram with us.
What's going on, everybody?
Welcome, welcome. And we got Corey from Southern Style Beards. Welcome,
hey,
Corey.
guys. How's it going?
Good. We're going to have a good night. So first off, I want to give a big shout out to our friend Kent. He couldn't be on tonight. He's driving home, I guess, from someplace. But he did something pretty cool, and we'll do a little unboxing next week when he's with us. He sent us. He was gonna, from our understanding, he was gonna give us some medical supplies to me and some of our other guys on here, like TJ and Corey and so forth, that maybe he had in his collection. But he actually went out of his way and bought some new gear for us and sent it out to us. I'm kind of shocked. So I really do appreciate that, Kent, and so on. So we'll get started. So Ron, tell us a little bit about what you do and everything. And by the way, for those out there, we're having some issues with the mic, so we're using my phone tonight. Hopefully the audio will be okay for everybody. But tell us a little bit about your company and everything that you do.
Well, we build just AR-15 triggers. They're national mesh triggers. We make a slightly faster trigger for people that want to do a little more high-speed competition, three-gun type competitions. I'm getting echo in here, so I might sound a little funny to you as I'm speaking. Our national mesh triggers are pretty much the best you're going to find. We have multiple national match championships from Camp Perry. We hold the junior world's record, the old-time senior world's record, or regular shooters world record, and more national match wins than anybody else.
Very cool. And everything you do is basically all hand-tuned.
Correct. We hand assemble everything. We don't EDM a thing. Everything is machined and polished into shape.
That's pretty cool. Because I know, in fact, we're using this. We have two triggers. One's going to go on the AR-10 build that's sitting on my bench behind me. That's been back there waiting for me to finish it. I kind of almost see the stock back there and whatever, but it's torn apart waiting for me to get I got the old trigger out and I'm ready to put this one in it. And then also for the Wisconsin rifle for the 50 States of AR-15 project, we're going to be changing that out as well. So I got one right here. And by the way, the packaging is pretty impressive, pretty nice stuff. You know.
Oh, we don't want it going out in a little bag.
Right, definitely. I did an unboxing of it so people can kind of see what it looks like to open it up and what comes inside with it and everything. But it's pretty in depth.
Yeah, you appreciated all our oil we poured into everything.
Yes, I did see that. There's quite a bit of oil on it. Of course, not going to have to worry about anything rusting, sitting on a shelf at all. But I doubt they sit. So,
well, I want everybody to know that use as much oil as possible. It is very good for the trigger. It makes everything feel smooth. And it won't hurt a thing.
Well, my saying has always been lubrication is the key to success.
Exactly.
That's one of the things I used to say when I was working as auto tech. So that's pretty cool. So tell us a little bit more about how did you get into the whole trigger thing, though?
I was a pretty good buddy with Charlie Milazzo. Now, Charlie invented the two-stage triggers for AR-15s. He built the very first one. It went to Camp Perry without even being heat treated, without anything special being done to it. And everybody down there was very, very impressed with it. He changed the designs a little bit from there and came up with the design that we're using today. Our newest models, we've changed a few little geometry points to it, but that's about it.
I've got a question for you, Ron. So I went on your site, looked at your triggers, and from seeing what Rick has, showed us on the channel, I am a 3-gun competitor. I shoot regularly with various 3-gun matches, mostly locally, but going to be venturing out to some of the bigger matches here soon. But out of curiosity, while I always appreciate a good competition grade trigger, is there anything, and I didn't see it on the site, so I might have missed it, but is there any plans for maybe doing a combat grade trigger, so like a super crisp, 5-pound trigger that you might put in a home defense gun?
Well, we already have that. All of them. You can adjust our pull weights up to probably go about 6.5 pounds if you put all the heavy springs in. And if you want to do a little spring tweaking, where you bend the legs back a little bit and give it a little more power, you get up to about 8 pounds. And the way our whole disconnector system works, you will have no creep and an extremely crisp release.
I'm down.
So, the difference between ours isn't so much the release or the spring pressures that you can do. All of them are capable of the same spring pressures. The release on an X is the best you're going to find. It's perfect. The release on a 1, 2, or 3 is better than probably 99% of the triggers out there. The drawback to an X is you have a very long reset. It's almost what a stock GI trigger would have for the distance travel. It obviously travels that distance much smoother, and you don't have any friction or grit going on. A 2 has a shortened up disconnector, which gives it a much faster reset. And that's the same disconnector we use in a 3. A 1 uses a slightly different one, and that's a longer reset and a pretty crisp release. It's better than a 2 or a 3, not quite as good as an X. So that's the differences in them.
Cool. I noticed too, I was also going to mention that I've seen a bit of your Instagram feed. I know we mentioned this earlier. You got a lot of cool photos and everything. If you want to share a little bit of that background, it looks like you got a lot of cool, full auto type things and whatnot.
Yeah, I had a couple of businesses in Waukesha, suburb of Milwaukee, and we built a lot of very nice things. We were the only people to be building the XM23 mount, which is the helicopter door gun mount for UH-1s, the old Huey helicopters. And we built the Navy's Mark 16 tripods, which is the tall stand-up tripod. They mount them on pier sides, they mount them on ships, mount them anywhere. And put a socket on the top of that will allow you to hold any of the crew served weapons, from 240s, 249s, and we put the different mounts on, and 50 cals and miniguns, you name it. And so naturally, we had to have all of that stuff for testing. You can't just build them out and tell somebody it's going to work unless you prove it can work. So that was a definite benefit. We had a whole lot of machine guns that went along with that business.
That's pretty cool.
And so we built some mounts for high-speed coastal patrol boats. All that went out to Philippines and Chile and places like that. You'd be amazed at how many small islands they have, and you get to thousands of miles of shoreline.
Wow.
So they don't have a need for a Nimitz class aircraft carrier, but they sure need a whole lot of small boats. So we did a lot of smaller machine gun stuff, 240s as opposed to 50 cals. And we replaced a lot of 50 cal mounts with some automated 240 mounts that we designed.
Awesome.
So as long as you have the belt-fed machine guns, you might as well build yourself a couple of M16s and some Stens and FALs, all the fun stuff.
Nice.
You never know. You might want them out for one.
There you go. So, what would you say is probably your favorite firearm?
Overall, the favorite, believe it or not, would be a very old, that 1936 British Boys anti-tank rifle, converted to 50 cal from 55 Boys, and that is just, to me, that was the most fun rifle I've ever owned, ever fired. It was accurate out to, I would shoot open sights out to about 1.25 miles out in Colorado.
Wow.
And just keep dumping API onto a dumpster. You got time to pull the trigger, get your senses back, because that is not like a new Barrett. It gives you a spinal adjustment every time you pull the trigger.
Wow.
So you regain your composure, look above the sights, and watch the bullet hit.
That's awesome.
So, you know, AR-15s, M16s are okay. They're very handy to use. They're very, very reliable. Much more reliable than my microphone, apparently. And, you know, they're accurate. They're lightweight. They're easy to carry a lot of ammo for. So
absolutely.
That's probably my second favorite. It's just a really well-made AR-15.
What's your most, I guess, your prized firearm in your current collection?
Oh, right now, I'm trying to think what would be the.
It's a tough one. It's like asking which is your favorite kid.
Well, actually, the one that I would never ever get rid of is a single-shot Marlin 22.
That's cool.
My dad bought that in right around 1955 and sent it home. He was in the Navy. Sent it home to his cousin for a Christmas present. And there was no way my aunt or my grandma could take it away from him because it was a Christmas present. And everybody in our family has learned to shoot with that rifle.
That's awesome.
So that one is, you can have my machine guns, you can take whatever you want, but that gun will never leave the family.
That's cool. I know I've been able to see a few things like that people have owned. Me personally, I'll share that is I've got a 1965 or 66, Model 200 Sears 20 gauge that my dad got as partial trade on a vehicle deal, and that was the first actual, outside my BB guns, the first actual firearm I actually shot. Took it up to my cousin. Actually, I have a cousin that has a little gun shop up there in what is it, Velders, Wisconsin? It's near Waukesha somewhere. Shot it in his on their farm basically, and so that's one of those things I would never sell either. And the other one was a good story. A friend of mine had his father's pistol that was a 1911 that he had in service, and it was just kind of cool to see that firsthand, that kind of a history and how times have changed. Where today, you're not seeing a soldier coming home that I'm aware of anyway that has a service pistol they can bring home with them.
Yeah.
You would get tackled leaving the base for even thinking about it.
Yeah, that's what I
I will say this, though. Modern military deployments, while we're typically not obviously allowed to take the service firearms home with us, like you saw in World War II.
Right.
And later, actually, even in Vietnam, where you saw guys bringing their personal firearms to Vietnam with them. What a lot of units are doing nowadays is getting commemorative pistols done. Really? So they might get a SIG, 1911 or a P320 or an M&P or a Glock or something. Or a lot of them do the custom 1911 type stuff. But yeah, there's actually a lot of the companies, at least when I was deploying, had a purchase program, especially for deployed units, because it was a group discount type thing, right? You've got 700 some odd Joes in a standard infantry battalion, if you include all combat arms and support personnel. I mean, just say on average, 60% of those people are over the age of 21 and older. So that's a bulk order of like 500 pistols at least. Right. So, but yeah, they'll do custom engraving, laser etching, all sorts of crazy stuff for the troops nowadays. So you don't get to take home your service pistol, but you get kind of a nice consolation prize.
Yeah, I've seen that too. Like some of the companies offering lower, like AR-15 lowers that have like different things. Like I think there's an Iraq lower, or something like Palmetto State Armory, I think had, or something. That's what comes to mind anyway, and things like that.
Yeah, Para Ordnance actually was another big one that did it. With their double stack 45s, they would do. They had probably one of the better deals out there because you'd get the Para. I cannot remember the model number. I'm sorry, guys, but so it was their double stack 45 1911 full size, and you'd get like 5 magazines with it.
Oh wow!
Yeah, on top of all the custom engraving. I don't think they do that anymore, but back in the day, I mean, it's really sad that I say back in the day now. I haven't been out of.
You're not dead.
No, I haven't. I'm not. But I mean, if you think about it, the last time I was in uniform was 2007.
Yeah.
So I mean,
years, right?
It's been a while. So.
Interesting. So, by the way, I'll share this too. To speak on the AR-15 platform, I'll show this off air, but those that followed along on Instagram, which is at BigGunner81, and on Facebook, I've been posting some pictures and things like of these 3D printed stocks I've been kind of playing around with, kind of prototyping and come up with some ideas. Kind of started with the idea that I wanted to make a fixed stock that would work on a carbine buffer that was kind of a mid-length style. Now, there's other companies that are making similar things out there, I mean, but I just wanted to design my own. So the very first one was this one right here. This is just, again, a prototype. And I found some different design flaws, it kind of looks okay, but one of the biggest things I noticed shortly after one of my short sights was there was not enough adequate clearance for the charging handle when this was installed. I had a little bit too much of a thickness on the top part of this. The other thing was, I was thinking about how to keep this installed on the buffer tube, and I thought was to do a clamp style setup. That's why I got a slot here, and it's got a hex for a nut and area for a bolt to be recessed in it to clamp it on. But my dimensions on this particular one were very, very tight. I had to basically hammer it on to the buffer tube to actually get it on there, so it wasn't going to come off on its own. And then after realizing the charging handle issue, I started playing around with the design, moved up to this, wanted to kind of fill in the gap somewhat between the buffer tube and the castle nut and all that stuff. And then I also noticed too, it's a little bit wide down here. I want to narrow that in, and that's one of the design changes coming up in the next revision on it. Changed out the styling, put some little triangles on the side, made it kind of a flat top, so to speak, to get the clearance for the charging handle. I had my finger over the ejection port there. And then what else did we do? After I did this one, of course, it was very tight fitting. I had a hammer on there as well. Did the nut and bolt setup, but I ran into a situation which I kind of figured could be the case, and this is why we're doing prototypes, test things out, see how they work. With this slot here and putting this nut and bolt in here, and it may be because I also just picked something I had laying around and ran to try out in here. This is almost like a tapered fit in a sense. So tightening it down, I started cracking the stock a little bit inside here. You know, say I didn't have to actually install it because it's such a tight fit to begin with. It wasn't going to go anywhere. But on the revisions I'm making to this now, a couple things I'm changing is the sizing for this area here. I'm getting rid of the slot. I'm going to move over probably and try out a setup with using like a set screw or maybe 2 set screws, which will basically draw into the dimples on the buffer tube that are already there. Or even just into the channel that's on the buffer tube, depending. Because some of these buffer tubes, for those, there's different variations from manufacturer to manufacturer. There's like 4-position and 6-position stocks and stuff like that make a difference on where the positioning of those holes are. The other thing I was kind of playing around with and was this stock. This one's just kind of pressed fit on here. I kind of hammered it on there. Although I got away from this design because people pointed out it looks too much like an A2 front sight post flipped upside down. It's kind of goofy, but It's not that it's a bad idea. The thickness on top here also isn't going to be a factor on this one because charging handle only comes back that far. But if this was further forward, it would contact it because I made it a little thicker on the top than it needed to be. This one I kind of designed it to have, you can see a hole through there, so you can put like an Allen wrench through it and use a set screw to hold it in place. Not that this is coming off. There is not a set screw in there now, and it's not going to just fall off. It's on there pretty tight. And then, as TJ mentioned off air, Nick Rhodes over on Facebook, after he started seeing this, has been asking about it. He's like, he took the photo of the blue one that I was showing here just a minute ago and kind of like scratched out. He's like, I want it just like this, So I started playing around with a different idea. I'm not really happy with this one just yet, but it kind of gives a basic idea of just something that's just a basic, like straight down style minimalist like stock. And again, this one I kind of set it up with this hole down here is actually oversized, and then further up the hole is smaller. I'm able to thread a set screw into there to hold it on in place as well. But again, I'm going to probably tweak this a little bit more. It's just stuff I'm kind of working on my own thing, kind of playing around with and whatnot, and want to share that with everybody.
Yeah. So Rick, on that, to go back to that discussion, let me know what you need from me for that other component we were discussing.
Oh,
Project X, that we'll call it, I guess. Let me know what you need from me as far as dimensions and stuff.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. We'll get together on that one and play around with some ideas. I enjoy the designing thing and everything. It's definitely fun. And I also have a lot of other things on the website. You can go to BigGunner81.com and check it out. For example, this thing I just had laying here. Mag caddies, mag holders, mag organizers, stuff like that to put on the shelf and in your range bag. We got some of those out there. The AR-15 stands. Things like that I started playing around with the 3D printing. Like I said, the stocks are just something I'm prototyping right now. We talked about the materials just briefly. This printed in like PLA. This is not going to be something I would say is deemed usable for range use. Maybe you could throw it on a 22, but it's more temperature sensitive than the PETG, which is what I made the blue one and the red ones out of. Some people have made stocks out of them. But ultimately, I'm looking at moving into more of like a nylon material that's going to be more durable yet. And most likely, it'll probably be like either a clear or like a regular, like a white nylon that I can dye and, be able to put whatever color I want into it and so forth. So that's kind of the stuff coming down the horizon. But Ron, I was going to ask you too, besides the trigger stuff, what else do you think, or do you have as far as products or things that you might be doing in addition to the triggers?
Well, right now we built a target hole ball system.
I forgot. That's right. I have that in the box.
Yeah, I sent you one of those.
You did. And in fact, I apologize. I was trying to get out to the range this weekend, or AC was broken, yada, yada. I didn't get out there. I had the box sitting there by the door with all my guns ready to go this weekend. So next weekend, I'm hoping to get out and try them. But go ahead and tell us a little bit about that. I don't know if you got one with you there that you could show.
Yeah, I got the form and the directions that come with it. I don't know if you can see any of that.
Yeah, and I actually had shown them, I think it was a week or two ago, to these guys as well out here because that was kind of a neat thing.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's not very complicated. You have a welded on top, put a gusset on there so you get plenty of room to weld so things won't fall off, and a simple rubber band. That's all you need.
So you can hold, what's neat about it is not only can you hold like clays, but you can hold whatever kind of items will fit in the rubber band.
Take a pen, hold it. It pretty much hold anything, won't fall out. You can hold anything from aspirins to, I stuck some matches in there.
Nice.
I got to admit, I hand lit the one match, but I will light one someday shooting at it.
Nice.
I hope. I might have one of the people we sponsor shoot at it for me because they're a whole lot better than I am.
Gotcha.
But the nice part about these is you get these little plastic sleeves also. And the plastic sleeves slide onto but basically the base of this thing, the long rod, and you have some just rods with no top to it. So you can, now here's where I had to think ahead a little bit. This is complicated. I know somebody would take one of these, jam it into the ground, hit a rock, and jam it through their hand. So we made this very complicated installing tool. Goes like that. You shouldn't be able to jam it through your hand, just in case.
That's a good idea.
So put one of these in, slide a plastic sleeve on it.
Challenge accepted.
Take this to the top.
So TJ, you're gonna go out there and see if you can push it through your hand.
Well, you gotta film that because that'll be good.
Oh, I'll film it.
Yeah, YouTube gold right there.
So, anyhow, Ron, have you heard about our cat launcher?
No.
The cat launcher.
Yeah, it's just kind of a running joke we've got where we were
Cats
talking.
have been harmed. Don't worry.
So I have been accused from time to time of using barnyard analogies and or redneck isms, and slinging a dead cat is in reference to there's a lot of stuff really close by. And that turned into a whole thing about a cat launcher. I don't know.
Yeah, we had a whole thing about trajectory and ballistic coefficients of felines, whatever. It was
Well,
fun.
you have to take into account though the type of fur and how much wind resistance you're going to get through it.
Yep.
You get off it.
We're not amateurs. We've gotten into Siamese hairless, Maine Coons, long-haired tabbies. We got some science. We got some science behind it, man.
No, that
They just launch them in a vacuum to see just how far you can get it first.
those
Exactly.
those are pretty neat though. I thought that was a great idea. That it's very versatile, and I like the idea that
simple.
it's probably going to hold up to shotgun blasts too. I imagine with the metal construction.
Yeah, it's all steel. You know, and if you wipe out a bunch of rubber bands, you get extra in the box, and you get them every time you buy asparagus.
Yep.
So, you know,
Yeah.
I'm always going to run out of rubber bands.
Exactly. It's easy. I like it.
So
when you have them in the plastic sleeves and they're butted up to each other, they're very firm. If you separate them by an inch or two, you start getting a lot of waving at the top when you get the breeze hitting it. So you get yourself some moving targets to throw some balloons on there. They're just fun.
That is cool.
I kind of bored with what I had to shoot at. I figured, okay, I'll hold whatever I want now.
I've been playing around with an idea just for clays. Kind of similar, but it's not as versatile as what you have there. I was thinking about like a poor man's dueling tree, you know, something that you could lay out there, which wouldn't cost as much as buying a whole set of steel to have a dueling tree. And I've only played around a little bit with this idea. Basically, just kind of show you, it's kind of like a kind of like just a little. You could also use it for that too. Is my other thought. Exactly, you use it as a thrower. You can set the clays in it. You can sit it at different angles. You know, almost straight up vertical. It'll hold it. So you can kind of stagger them. Like if you want to go out with a buddy and you want to have like a setup on each side of like just say a single, you know, target stand, you can just screw them right on there. They just use like little screws. Not as quick as what you have there, and I think what you have is a great design. But just want to share something I've been kind of playing around with, and I'm still developing like what kind of materials to use. I used it with the PETG stuff. I'm sorry, with the PLA material, the filament. And I haven't tested them yet with this the PETG or this TPU. TPU is interesting because it's actually like a 3D printable, like a rubber almost. You can see like I can twist it. So that was something I thought would be kind of neat. I wanted to see how it would hold up with shotgun blasts because the other stuff's going to get deteriorated from a shotgun, unlike having a metal setup.
just send it to me. I'll take
I know.
care of it.
I've got a box here. I gotta get them all situated. I started labeling what they were, but I do want feedback on them. Again, just kind of playing around with the ideas. You know, see what's out there, and that's what I love about this. There's so many cool, innovative things that are out there, and different ideas that some are just the simplest things. You know, and what you got there, I think, is an awesome, simple design that is very effective, and I can't wait to try them out. That's why I said I have them sitting here with all my gear, we're waiting to go. As soon as I get out to the range to go test them out and play with them.
Yeah. The other other things we build, this is another one very, very simple. They're just receiver blocks, receiver savers. So if you, if I can reach one of my blowers. When you tune a trigger, you are constantly setting it, holding it back, seeing how it's breaking. Because our triggers are all adjustable to spring pressures and the disconnector through the top there. And it only took about maybe 40 times of slamming my thumb with the hammer and pretty much going numb after putting together 4 or 5 triggers. Simply drop it in. It holds in place with the mag release, with the mag catch. Stops it. Getting the receiver, cracking the receiver. So we call it a receiver saver.
Especially important.
Nice.
A lot of people don't realize how much damage you can do to a receiver by just dropping the hammer on it. Especially if it's not forged, if it's machined aluminum.
Or polymer.
Oh, yeah.
Polymer one's what I was thinking about big time.
Yeah,
now, Ron, do you make those in house?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, in our house, no, we don't do any machining for the most part. All of the trigger parts, all of that is machined at the best of the best that we can find. We're going to the aerospace division of pretty much all the machine shops that we use. It's kind of fun to go in there because the place that does our main trigger machining itself, they build Raphael missile parts. They build all kinds of other strange little things for the government. So it's kind of fun to see all of that stuff when we go in there. So you'll see all these missile fins and different little guidance pieces laying around. And there's a case of trigger castings waiting to be machined up. The place that builds our springs, they have a room that's probably a good 1,000 square feet or so. And it's pressurized so that it's blowing air out all the time, positive air pressure. It's incredibly filtered. You have to put on a complete suit, complete protective suit to go in there. And they're building the little pieces that the surgeons use to go through and clean your veins out when they're in angioplasty or clean ream through your heart and you start plugging up.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, the cardiovascular roto-rooter, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's interesting to see that. They're so phenomenally picky with how clean everything is.
And once that you get it back to you.
Well, you're screen locked up.
Oh, I was just saying, so everything that, like, when you get all those components back, you're doing all the hand fitting and all that kind of stuff, the finishing part of it.
Correct. The components will come back to us at almost every step. And we have all kinds of fixtures that you put the part in and it will measure the particular dimension that step was machining. You know, if it's trigger hooks and things like that, you slide it on there and it measures the amount of movement we have, the amount of length of trigger hooks, things like that. And we just keep discarding parts as we go along the way. When you find something bad, you throw it away. So we weld things out of it. We make coat racks and stuff.
That's awesome.
Around the shop. In fact, if you look at the Instagram of William, our oldest son, he's the production manager here, and he runs our metal finishing business next door in the big building. He welded together a cow out of spec triggers.
That's awesome.
That's that goofy MK Moo that's put on their Instagram photo.
Nice.
So yeah, the only part we machine completely in house is the adjusting screw for the disconnector, and that's simply put into a fixture, put on the surface grinder, and true up the bottom of the screw. So when you turn it, you're turning the exact distance that the threads are pitched for. Because otherwise, the tip of a screw is always a little crooked.
Oh, I got you.
So you up and down and start turning it. So all our screws are machine flat.
That's to speak to how fine of quality this is, right there.
Well, yeah, it's the 468, something like that, a real odd pitch, because you turn it 3/8 of a turn after you set it to the 0 point of the second stage. And if you had an angle screw, you're not going to turn it exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense, because the whole surface wouldn't be smooth. There would be variations in it causing that change. So yeah, definitely, that's interesting. Speaking of the using the parts, out of spec or anything that's not going to be going into a production piece or component. I was talking with a company that manufactures slides for like Glocks and so forth, and they were talking about their out of spec ones and stuff that they'd have. They were making them into like a sign for their company. I thought that was kind of a cool idea. Well, all together, like you said, make it into the customer business name. And granted, when you say that, people think, well, blems and stuff, that's going to happen. There's going to be, tooling that wears out, or something that gets damaged along the way of producing anything in manufacturing. So you're going to have those things. You'd rather have them there in-house, your QC, the quality control is picking that up, and it's not going out the door. That's the whole idea. And what do you do with it? You can either, depending on what it is, sometimes they can go back and regrinds, I guess you could say, or you make a repair to it or whatever, or it gets scrapped, or whatever. So that's kind of cool, the whole thing with the cow, and it's just a kind of neat, creative way to do something with those excess pieces.
Yeah, they're pretty much scrap. If they don't pass one of the control checks, we would never sell a blem, let's put it that way.
Right.
The worst we ever had is something that's a very obvious cosmetic divot in the side or something. Those get marked as not for sale, and we give those away to junior shooters.
Gotcha. Yeah, I actually had a discussion on Facebook recently with people. I was like, asking, well, what do you do with your blems? Do you sell them? Do you give them away? Do you destroy them? Or what do you do with them? And I had varying answers. One's like, don't ever let blems go out of the door, because it speaks to the quality of your company. Because your product, your branding. And even though you're maybe giving it to someone or discounting it, it's out there now, some people say, well, offer them at a discount, to sell them so you can help recoup your costs, which makes sense as well. And then, what was the other one? People talk about giving it away and whatnot like that. But yeah, I mean, it kind of depends, I guess, on what the flaw is and your whole opinion on what you would want to do with it. Every situation is a little different.
If we have a flaw where it's a bad feel on any point of the trigger pull, that gets destroyed, thrown away, or turned into a cow.
And it makes sense, especially with something that's a trigger. That's just your fire control for something that's a projectile, how fast out the barrel there. So it makes a lot of sense in that case for that type of a product. But like you said, if it's a physical blem and it's something that's not going to affect the actual operation of it, junior shooter that could use something like that, it makes sense too.
Right, and it's a definite cosmetic problem where when you cast the part, you might have a little bit of a divot on a tower, or the side of the trigger might have some heavy sand cast mark on it. I would never sell that to anybody. So we like I say, we grind not for sale on it, and I send them out to the juniors. We sponsor a lot of junior teams.
That's good.
All their club guns are a lot of them be running blem triggers, but they get used at least.
Well, that's a very important thing too. They always say the cliche thing of the children are the future. If you don't support people who are young in the world of firearms and responsible usage and ownership of firearms, where is that going to leave the country as far as firearms ownership years to come? Because not to get off on too much of a tangent, but for those that have not ever had the experience of operating a firearm and never learned that when they were, say, younger or throughout their life, oftentimes people have the fear of the unknown. And all of a sudden now when it comes to the whole politics and everything in the world and the whole outlook of firearms in general, they become more, maybe either on the fence or more towards the side of anti-gun versus pro-gun. Not to go into the politics again, but, it's a great thing to get to help involve it. And it's there's so many great qualities when it comes to sharing, firearms ownership and use. You can have that whole family bonding type experience, father, son, whatever, not necessarily to be gender biased in any sense or way, but, you get a family bonding experience just in general. And you get to teach some good values and things like that along with that. So to kind of put it simply, I guess. So I think that's a great thing that you're doing that and helping to contribute to that next generation.
Just had to grab one of my old flyers when you're mentioning that. For the family values, we sponsor the Texas State Junior Rifle Team, and they have our top shooter, and it's a young lady, Madison Butler.
Okay.
She's the one that set the Junior World's record with our X trigger. The very first X trigger out the door went to her. Her coach built her a new rifle because she went distinguished the year before. He builds her a new rifle. I told him, hold on, I'm going to send you one of our new triggers, new style. He put that in. She broke in the trigger, went to the very first match, and set the Junior World's record with it. She ended up being the top female shooter in high power, and I believe she was 17th overall by the end of the year.
Oh.
So anyhow, we put her in our little, trifold informational flyers that we hand out wherever we go. So I'm at Camp Perry, and we're handing out these things. And I'm sitting in my car watching with binoculars with kids shooting, because it was a whole lot cooler to leave my air conditioner running. And yes, I am that lazy. So I'm sitting there, and a lady comes up and knocks on the window. Oh, I didn't know you were watching. I thought you were just sitting in the car. It's not, it's fine. She says, well, I'm Madison's grandmother. Would you have some more of those flyers? I'd like to pass them out at church. She was that proud of having her daughter in our flyer.
That's awesome.
Family value-wise, it's incredible what you see out of the kids that are involved in the sport. And that's where the future is. Exactly.
And that's the good side of firearms ownership that we don't see in the mainstream media part of it. It's kind of sad, we always hear all these tragic stories and stuff, but then this is the good side of it, where people are learning these things and learning their responsibility and marksmanship and the whole team type stuff and the sports and everything that goes on with it. I can't put it all into words very well, but there's a lot of good core values, I guess, to sum it up simply, that go along with it that people miss out on sometimes, and that's also why we're here doing this. I know TJ, we've talked about this. Corey, we've talked about it. Like, we come do this every week. Have the YouTube channels and stuff to try to help share the positive side of firearms ownership and the Second Amendment, all that kind of stuff, and also to share the people like you, Ron, as well, with the different companies and different aspects of this, as far as industry and everything. Because we don't have that. For example, you don't see like a lot of firearms commercials on TV. It's kind of rare. So the whole aspect there is a little different. And all we really have, other than there's some channels that are geared towards sportsmen and things like that. A lot of that's most of it's centered around hunting and not so much even with the sport shooting of target shooting and 3-gun and the actual sport of it. And so, the next thing is we have internet, YouTube channels and other sorts of social media and so forth that are out there. And even in that one, YouTube, for example, to get on a slight tangent of this, they've had a lot of issues recently. Like if you have bumfire stock and you have a video up, I got a channel ding, whatever they call it, a strike because I had a video from like, months prior, a year prior, shooting a rifle with a bump fire stock. They're also kind of like cracking down on some of the videos that are out there, I guess, based on their whole guidelines and everything. And granted, it's a privately owned company. They can pick and choose what they want to have on YouTube. But it starts to get a little bit of a slant towards the anti-gun stuff on there as well. Here on YouTube, I should say. So trying to get the information out there is important, because it seems like there's a lot of censorship and just kind of it being kind of squashed out, and in general otherwise. So it's good to have people like you, Ron, and everybody else on here that, kind of show there's a lot of good sides to this stuff, a lot of cool things. There's small businesses out there creating, components and jobs and things, and then there's people that are actually, going out, and they're not out there necessarily hunting or causing any other harm in any type of way. Not that hunting's causing any harm. That didn't sound right, but there's just, people are out there just enjoying their guns just to go shoot and enjoy it for the aspect of the sport and everything that's out there, and all that. So anyway, I guess I'm kind of a little bit of a tangent, and I'm going to ask you, Corey, because you've been quiet the whole night. You got any comments or any thoughts?
Just keep up being active in the 2A community. I posted some stories the other day of me dry firing from my appendix carry on Instagram. And first of all, I didn't have my belt with me. And second of all, my pants were really baggy and the retention was just hideous. But I'm still getting my basic fundamentals down from drawing from a concealed carry position. If I'm out anywhere, at least I have that experience. And I'm starting to get from the outside the waistband carry with a leg shroud. So I'm starting to dry fire with it a bit. I've actually got my mags emptied and got some dry fire snap caps in there. So I mean, practice is everything. And if you don't have the money or the time to go out to the range, dry fire is where it's at.
You reminded me. You mentioned appendix carry a second ago.
Yeah.
There was a video someone's been posting up. I don't know the whole background on it. Have you guys seen this? Where the guy was like, I guess he put his pistol in his holster and went to bend over and shoot himself.
I saw it. Yeah.
Do you know the background on that one? I didn't quite catch it all.
I haven't seen any, closure on the details.
Yeah.
There's a lot of speculation, but I'm going to throw my speculation in there and agree with what's already out there that one of his shirts probably got caught in his trigger, and when he bent over, it discharged. Because if you watch closely, he's wearing two T-shirts. Mm-hmm. He's got an undershirt, and he's got the main shirt, the shirt that's actually concealing the firearm. I think his undershirt ended up inside the sweat guard of his holster.
I've heard some people say,
because even me practicing, like I've done it with an undershirt, trying to practice with like a button-up shirt or something on. Mm-hmm. And even that, just dry fire, I've seen my shirt or my undershirt get caught inside the sweat guard of my holster. It made it just past it to where when you reholster, the shirt goes with it. Yeah, there you go. Corey showing
you're over there.
The sweat guard here rests against your body, so the shirt can actually go down into the holster itself, which can lapse around the trigger and cause, when you pull out, it'll fire. So
yeah, and if you look, and I've even done the research because I carry appendix most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Likewise.
Truth be told, it really depends on the jeans or the pants that I'm wearing, because some pants are cut differently to where they don't. Either way, I'm getting off on stupid shit. But anyway, I carry appendix most of the time, and it makes you wonder, like, okay, how often does this actually take place? Because there have been some instructors that have outlawed it in their classes. Actually, Larry Vickers is one most notable that doesn't allow appendix carry in his classes. So if you look at it and actually look at the issues around appendix carry, from what I can see, of the reported cases of negligent or accidental discharges from an appendix carry, it's either on the draw or on the reholster. On the draw, because it's a Tex Grebner type situation, you put your finger on the trigger and shoot yourself in the dick. Or, well, in Tex's case, he shot himself in the thigh. Right. But it was because his finger hit the trigger on the draw. And on the reholster, because a foreign object goes into the holster with the gun and hits the trigger. I mean, here's mine right here. Like, there's nothing is going to hit that trigger while it's in that holster. Something's either going to have to go in with it,
right,
or be there before I put it in. But before I put the holster in or reholster the gun. Likewise, if you draw and your finger's right there, that's why they train you. A high index. So.
I mean,
that's what I think happened. But yeah, he from what I understand, he survived. Like, he didn't die, thank God.
I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, look, this tier 1 concealed holster, I mean, it's the same just like anybody. I mean, the trigger is not even exposed at all. When you go to get the grip on the gun, if you have correct finger discipline anyways, your finger's already where it needs to be when you draw out. It's not on the trigger or anything like that. So
I was going to add something to that too. I had a friend that had mentioned to me who was in law enforcement. He said, when you go to reholster, he's like, I always recommend take the holster off before you reholster it. If you have to pull out your pistol for like a defensive situation, take your holster off and then reholster it. Then you eliminate that whole problem of getting anything caught in it when you go to reholster and shooting yourself, so to speak. I don't know if that's a good idea, bad idea. Some people out there might have their own thoughts on it. I'm just relaying what someone else had mentioned to me, and I didn't think it was necessarily a bad idea because, drawing is where you want to have your speed, right? Reholstering it, you can take your time reholstering. My thought,
Well, there's also a matter of one of the reasons I like appendix carry is honestly for retention. In the event that someone's trying to go for my gun, it's easier for me to defend something that's right here, in line with my body than something that's back here on my hip.
Plus, if you're doing backflips, it's a little less of a chance of it falling out, right?
Yeah, that FBI dipshit. Yeah, I saw that. He didn't shoot anybody till he tried to pick the gun up.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, well, the gun went off when he dropped it. No, he went to go pick it up and he grabbed the trigger probably by accident. Yep. He's panicked, like, oh shit, my stuff just fell out in front of him.
As soon as his hand hit that gun, that thing went off, and it went right into the trigger. I guarantee it.
Mm-hmm. And I can't fault him because for that mistake because he was panicked at that point. No,
I can fault him. Your dumbass is if you're doing something on duty and you've got a gun, you shouldn't be trying to do backflips.
I agree with that. I'm saying I can't fault if he panicked and went to grab it and like accidentally did that.
No,
I fault him for the retention issue.
No, I'll fault him 100% because especially if he now I don't know if he actually was a cop or an FBI agent as the post on social media says, but if he was any type of law enforcement, he should have enough training and be in the right mindset when handling a firearm to not do something that stupid. I hold him 100%.
I agree with you with that too.
I understand. I understand the oh shit moment of my gun just came out.
He probably hasn't practiced losing his gun in front of a crowd. Is I guess what I'm trying to say, and probably just panicked, and screwed up. But granted, he shouldn't have lost it in the first place.
A lot of it too. All the classes I've ever been in, if for some reason you drop your gun, let it go. You'll hurt yourself 90% of the time if you try to catch it. And the same thing, he probably just went off after it as fast as he could and stuck his hand where
he didn't take a half-second pause to collect himself. He went to grab it.
He just saw it on the ground and was like, oh shit. He probably felt it come out too. You gotta
somebody, you look around and make sure, okay, nobody saw me. You get up as fast as you can.
Well, he was in the middle of a crowd watching that white boy bust a move too.
Yes.
Looking like an idiot, period.
This is on administrative leave, but I'm sure. I mean, man, that's got to be. I mean, That's gonna be something, for him. That experience, probably never forget that one.
Well, now he's gonna be the Will Ferrell of the other guys and be registered to a desk with a wooden gun
I was gonna
where
say,
it doesn't fire. So
is he doing desk pops?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had my desk pop, Chief. It's guys like that guys like him are the reason that there are Friday safety briefs for grown adults in the military. Like every Friday, your platoon sergeant pulls everybody to, everybody gathers around, said, okay, remember, don't drink and drive, use a condom. If you get too drunk, call a buddy or call me, or don't get into fights. Like, seriously, they're grown adults. They're like, you shouldn't be having to have this conversation. But just like the reason there's warning labels on stupid shit, like on hair dryers and curling irons, is because there's some idiot that tried to do it with that implement, and there you go.
I did show you my installation tool, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's why they have to have a need for it. I'm sure you got in the instructions too, probably laying out why it's there.
It's like George Carlin said. And imagine, hypothetically, how smart you are compared to the rest of the world. Even being modest, you could say that you're about of average intelligence. So that puts you right in the middle. That means half the people on this planet are dumber than you are.
I was just reading too one of the comments, and by the way, over on YouTube and on gunchannels.com. For those that don't know about gunchannels.com, go to gunchannels.com/BigGunner81. We stream on there as well as on YouTube, and there's live chat, so you can comment and kind of follow along. If you have questions or anything, so you can post them up. General Relativity mentions because of that ND, negligent discharge, I pull my appendix holster out, holster the handgun, and then reinsert my holstered gun. Zero chance of close grabbing the trigger. Let's see what he says. Firearms are machines like any other, so you have to be careful with clothes and dangling things, like hoodie strings and straps. And I agree. That's where I think my friend of mine mentioned that, just to be on the safe side, when you go to reholster, take your holster off, holster it, then put it on all on at once. So that way you have zero chance of anything grabbing it or getting caught in it or sandwiched between it or anything like that.
And even if you look at all of the professional instructors out there, all those that teach, even appendix or not, that teach self-defense firearms tactics, and even some that go above and beyond that teach SWAT crews and military, special forces teams that, whatever, they all teach be quick on the draw, but slow to reholster.
Yep.
If you had to pull that gun out, there is no reason to rush to put it away.
Right, that makes sense.
So taking the extras.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Corey.
I like Lucius Black's. The way he does everything. Just pulls it out and cocks it. Just to the side of where.
Oh God, you're making a firearms pop culture reference.
I know. Oh, Voda. I mean, it's just the basic bitch of know how to do things.
You know what's sad? When I first saw the video of him shooting and like doing that thing where he's like shooting at the target and shooting at the ceiling, I knew what range that was at because those who haven't seen this is a firearms instructor that's from North Carolina, by the way, where I'm at right now. Instructor. Instructor quotes. And there was at Blackstone Shooting Sports or whatever, the range down here right in Charlotte. Because they have a very much like you can, their range is kind of like what's the word I'm trying to look for? You can tell it's instinctive, like what that.
Well, if he's there, it's dangerous. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Man, I tell you what, that's a whole another story about ranges and stuff and safety. Because there's a lot of people who are, I guess, inexperienced sometimes, and sometimes just people that are just kind of dangerous in general. And you got to realize when you're dealing with a range that's open to the public, most time they don't know who is, how to put it this way. Someone walks into a gun store / range and they get range time. That range may never seen them before in there. They don't know their shooting skills or lack thereof, or you know, how they handle themselves. In other words, so you're dealing with like the public. And
if you're not a member of that range, that RSO should be glued to the back of your head, watching everything you do.
Right. And in most part, a lot of ranges do have, you know, they do kind of keep an eye over things, but sometimes things happen very quickly. You know, you got one range officer and you got like, you know, 8 or 10 bays.
It's a challenge. I'll give you that. I will say this though, a lot of the higher end indoor ranges that I've been going to have, so like if it's more, so most of your indoor pistol bays or pistol ranges, if they have more than like 8 bays, it's divided into 2 different rooms or more, right?
Oh yeah, sure. They segment it off.
So they'll have one dedicated range officer per room
for each one.
So
and cameras too is the other thing you see.
Yeah, and cameras, of course. Well, that's a liability thing. They've got to have that. But
right.
At the same time, yeah, trust me, the cameras in the gun range is not a luxury. That's a you will have this.
Right.
But yeah. Having been a range officer before, you can kind of pick out. I never once felt that I was outnumbered, like my experience to inexperienced shooters. You could always kind of pick out the squeaky wheel that needed a little bit more grease than the others.
Right.
So granted, I will concede to your point that things can happen fast. And you blink, and the next thing you know, you got some.
You kind of get a feel a little bit, like an intuition of who you need to pay more attention to over others.
Yeah, you got a bunch of frat boys coming in trying to show off for a bachelor party, acting stupid, even sober as a priest, all of them. But let's face it, guys, when we get into groups of us, we're pretty stupid.
And there's a lot of times you get someone who's new that has never been shooting before, and then you get their boyfriend or whoever's with them, or their friend.
Oh, yeah.
Not to be sexist, because I kind of sounded that way. I apologize. But they get a friend or whoever else is trying to be an instructor, quote, and they'll give them something that's too big for them, to
come on, babe. I play Call of Duty. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I don't mean that like in a downward way. I'm saying like if you have someone that's new who's never shot a gun before, you don't go give them a 38 stub nose and say, "Here, have at it." I've seen people do that. You might end up with an undesirable result. You start them out with a 22. Okay, great. That worked out. Let's try something to move up,
I have seen video evidence of a cop taking his girlfriend or wife, significant other. Okay, and this was one of those, like, dude was basketball player height, like 6'8". Okay. Took his like 4'0" girlfriend to the range, pulls out his Smith & Wesson 629 44 Magnum. And you guys have seen the videos where somebody will have like a really big bore revolver and they'll shoot it and it'll kick
smack
back
himself in the face.
No, not just that, but it'll kick back and shoot again.
Oh, I haven't seen that part.
I haven't seen any of those.
Now I've seen that a couple of times where guys it'll go like bang bang. Did that, caught him right up underneath the chin and put his brains on the ceiling.
Oh wow.
Because of the height difference, and he was standing over her trying to help her.
And this is why some ranges have curtains over their windows.
Yep.
Yep,
wait a second. That happened to him?
Yeah, he's dead.
Wow. Because
he was standing over her, gave her a gun she could not control.
Right.
And it sadly ended his life.
Wow.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You gotta be careful with it. As much as we want to teach people how to shoot and stuff, care and caution, just like is very important. There's this story with the young girl who was shooting a full auto and ended up shooting the guy in the head with it because
so it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, she's shorter to the ground, couldn't handle it, properly, and probably shouldn't have been shooting it.
That was a girl in Texas, right?
I can't remember where it was.
But anyway,
I'm trying to find videos of these double recoils. I think I found one. Hold on.
Can you do a screen share with it or no?
I'm working on that. I want to make sure it's the right.
Otherwise, because we'll probably wrap up pretty soon anyway.
Yeah, that's fine. Maybe we can cover this next time. But
yeah, maybe we'll do that next time. We'll get some videos together and we'll kind of share them, talk about them a little bit. Maybe next week. And what else we got to cover real quick? if anyone has any final thoughts, we'll go. Ron, do you have anything you want to mention to kind of wrap up with?
Yeah, actually, on a Facebook post, I made mention I was invited to join your show for the night.
Oh, cool.
Which
Awesome.
I really appreciate. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. Anytime.
If it would have worked, it would have been even better. And I made mention that we had a new product coming out, that they had to listen to the show if they wanted to be the first to hear what it is.
Awesome. What is it?
So
I'm excited.
It's very simple. We're selling complete lowers now with the triggers already tuned.
Awesome. Is it going to be an FMK lower?
Pardon me?
Is that going to be an FMK lower?
No, this is a something. Yeah, that's what this is.
Yep, I caught it because that's what I have right.
$30 nothing receiver.
That's what I have right here. Is the FMK lower? That's how I recognize the roll marker, the logo.
The low end ones like this for receiver, we're just putting twos in it.
Okay.
Putting a national match X in here is not going to feel that good.
Yeah, because it's a polymer receiver.
Yeah, you're gonna want something lower. But into the better receivers, you're working with a company, Flex Tech.
Oh yeah, okay.
We'll be putting in X triggers into those, and eventually we'll be taking receivers in. If you have your receiver, you want a trigger put in, we'll install it, tune it, and send it back to you.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And one other little thing I do whenever we do podcasts with people is you type in Gunner on the coupon code.
Okay.
Starting tomorrow, I'll set the coupon up. You get 10% off anything on the website. And that'll run for about, this is June, July 4th. We'll end it on July 4th.
Cool. So I appreciate that.
People get all your people get a 10% discount if they're looking for a trigger, anything, hold balls, or anything on the website.
That's awesome. Generous offers. I appreciate that. That's pretty cool. And again, I appreciate having you on. Say again?
I appreciate being invited to be on here.
Oh, we're happy to have you. And again, thank you for the support of the 50 States of AR-15 project. That's something we're still working on. We've got, let's say, I think 7 rifles, almost the 8th one done now, and a few more receiver sets beyond that. It's been a project to get to that point. It's a lot to take on, and I'm trying to stay above that curve with some of these states having different gun laws and things and making it more difficult to find receivers and so forth. Like example, Hawaii, that is one that's still a challenge. I found a company, but I think that they're maybe not making lowers anymore. I think they stopped shortly after I started talking with them, and it's the only one I have known of so far. So we're still doing some digging on that. So if anybody out there knows of one out in Hawaii, let me know. We thought Alaska was going to be a challenge. I found a couple places there, and we actually got the Alaskan upper and lower situated for that build as well. But
I think Hawaii. I think Hawaii's turned into like Pompeii and like Mount Vesuvius. They're covered in lava. You might not be able to find anything for a while.
We're gonna find one that's chiseled out of like lava rock.
Yeah.
That would be cool. Have you ever seen that the 1911s that were made out of like the meteorite or whatever?
Yes, and they're like millions of dollars.
Cabot guns.
Yep, that's right.
And they do more. They do more than just the meteorite stuff. They do some really gorgeous work.
Yep, I think I saw one over at one of the local ranges down here, and I can't believe it. If I remember right, if I'm thinking of the right manufacturer, I think it came like in a acrylic, like almost like a briefcase type display case thing. I was like, man, it was pretty pricey too, of course, but it looked really nice. So yes, thank you again, Ron, and Corey. You got anything you want to wrap up with there?
Just guys, keep going out, keep shooting, keep trying the basic fundamentals of concealed carry and then open carry. Just work on your drills. I mean, obviously nobody's perfect. Everybody's got a different style and way of teaching and showing and learning. Everybody has different speeds of learning and teaching and showing as well. So you start out slow, and then you gradually progress your time to a little bit faster each time you do it. So, and just do it where you're comfortable. If you don't have the money to go to the range, nor do you have the ammo or anything like that, dry fire. It's the best place. You can do it in your house. Nobody's judging you. You can do a quick video to see what you're doing, what you're working with, where you can correct yourself at. So it's practice, man. It's simple. And it just take a couple minutes out of the day, put your holster on, put whatever it may be, and just put some practice in for those 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes.
And I'll add to that too. Get a friend out there, help bring someone else into the world of firearms and shooting, because it's a great hobby. It's a great I almost want to say like a way of life, in a sense. Being in the whole gun world, I guess you could put it that way. Granted, some people like us, we're very much into firearms, but just having that as something in your life that that you have some knowledge of and experience with, is a good thing. Not to be afraid of something. It's another thing that you can have as a skill set, I guess you could put it that way. So bringing other people into it, helping people, the younger generation, learn more about firearms and everything. Not just that they're being used in school shootings and all types of tragedies out there in the world, that there is a good side to firearms ownership, and so on. So I'll just want to mention that again. TJ, if you got anything else you want to wrap up with?
Yeah, I want to piggyback on what Corey was alluding to with the training aspect of it. So I want to challenge everybody out there who might be currently watching this show or watching the video after it's aired, to go out and check out Bear Solutions LLC. That's BAER Solutions LLC.com. So the instructor and owner of that company, Drew Estel, I have had the pleasure of shooting with him before. I'm hoping to take one of his classes as he's coming into town in July. So I hope to go make his CCW class a priority, barring any schedule conflicts that I might have. But on his webpage, he has free targets that you could just print out on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And more specifically, the Bear Solutions Standards target. So it's the very first target that you're going to see on that page, under the free targets page. And it seems easy. It seems easy. But I'm going to tell you what, guys, I tried this thing this past weekend, and it kicked my ass. So I have got a lot of work to do. Now, granted, a lot of the guys that I see perform this task or this drill do so from an open carry holster. So they've got like their war belt on and they got all their Gucci tactical gear on, which is fine. But I wanted to push myself and try it from concealed, and I was not able to make the standard of 9 seconds. The best I could do was 10.5 seconds from concealment. And yeah, so but the key thing is that it really showed me some of the things that I need to work on personally with regards to weapons manipulation from concealed on a relatively simple but still very challenging target. So take advantage of the free training that's out there and kind of gauge yourself, see where you're at compared to other people that do these things, because they're a great training tool and a great resource. So get out and train.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you all again for being on the show tonight. Again, check out BigGunner81.com. We got the new online store set up on there. And, of course, the 50 states of AR15.com for all the different rifle builds we're doing for all these states, and the updates on there as well. Another shout-out, again, to Spin & Precision, Applied Arsenal Finishes and Gunworks, Eggleston Munitions, and the Range at 355. And, as always, till next time, everybody, have fun shooting.